iPhone, Android. If Apple really cared about your security, iPhones would talk with Android in a better fashion. Encrypted, safer, more private. But they don't. And frankly, that's Apple's fault. And a newcomer on the scene thought they could fix it. Beeper. They figured out how to hack Apple and make iMessage work on Android. But everything's kind of gone poorly with that. So stick around and we'll get into the history, where things are at, and where things will go. Spoiler alert, don't get your hopes up. In the US, more than half of smart home users are on an iPhone, and because Apple sets iMessage as the default chat app and you cannot change that, that means more than half of Americans are using iMessage as the default app. Europe is a whole different situation where most people are using different apps that are just as secure and convenient and easy, but in the US, we're stuck with an issue of blue bubbles versus green bubbles. If you're a blue bubble, you're on iMessage and everything is secure and safe and you get extra features. If you're a green bubble, you're not, and you are to be shunned and hated. Okay, it's not that bad, but it kind of is. Apple falls back to old school SMS text messaging. Now this is going to get better. Apple promised that they would go to RCS, which is better. It supports higher resolution videos and emoji reactions and so on, but not encryption by default. So until that particular part gets solved, then your messages from iPhone to Android and back can be intercepted. And this is not the Android person's fault, it is Apple's fault. Multiple companies have tried to address this fact with workarounds. You can use something like the Blue Bubbles app, where you set up your own Mac Mini server to essentially intercept iMessage and forward them to your phone. It's not the most secure thing in the world, but you have full control over everything since it's on your own Mac Mini server. Nothing, in partnership with Sunbird, tried to do the same thing but with more convenience for you. They set up their Mac Mini server and you would hand your credentials over to them and hope that they kept everything secure while they did all the iMessage work for you. You can check out my other videos on Sunbird and nothing, but spoiler alert, it didn't go well and they weren't anywhere near as secure as they promised. Beeper is another company that offers the same service, although not in public yet. And they came along with something new and exciting, what they called Beeper Mini. Instead of handing your credentials to them and letting them run iMessage through a Mac Mini server to you, they promised they had actually figured out a way to truly put iMessage on an Android phone. It seems unbelievable, and it gets even more unbelievable when you find out that it's actually a 16-year-old developer who cracked Apple's system on how iMessage works. This 16-year-old developer partnered with Beeper to create an app that would register your phone number on Apple's servers, and in the process, give Apple the impression that your Android phone is actually an iPhone. Your text messages would go directly to Apple's servers and then to the person you wanted to speak with and back, cutting Beeper out of the process entirely, so it remained end-to-end encrypted through Apple's systems. The only thing Beeper had to do was set up a notification service so that you could be notified when you had a new message. That service didn't see the contents of your message, it just lets you know you have a new message and then you could go check. It actually worked really well. For $2 a month, you could have iMessage on Android. Until Apple broke it. Because of course they did. We've seen this cat and mouse game before. Years ago, the Palm Pre came out, and it became a non-Apple device that actually worked with iTunes. You could use iTunes to sync your music through it. However, that's not something Apple wanted or allowed, so they broke it. Then Palm updated their phones to refix it. Then Apple broke it again, then Palm fixed it again, and Apple broke it again, and so on until Palm finally gave up. I think that's what's going to continue to happen here. Apple has every reason in the world to not allow this to happen. For one, financially, they want you on an iPhone. They don't want you on Android. But for two, there is some security issues to be concerned about when you have non-Apple devices registering themselves on Apple servers as Apple devices, and some questions of could someone use this to spam, etc., etc. Now, Beeper has already turned around and updated their app to get iMessage working on Android again. They say, It comes with some small problems that are big gotchas. For one, you now have to hand your Apple credentials over to Beeper, and I'm just not a fan of that. As we saw with Sunbird, you can't always trust some unknown company to be truly as secure as they say. Now, Beeper has open sourced a lot of their technology just so you can check in and see what's going on. But even still, you're handing your Apple ID and password to a non-Apple company, and that's just not good security practice. The other problem is, at least for the moment, your phone number will not be registered with Apple. So you can only send iMessages through your Apple associated email. Now, I discussed this in the original Nothing video. Go check this out for more. But here's the dead level truth that's never going to work. It's never going to stick. It will do you no good. I've been in exactly that scenario. Before I got my iPhone, I set up a Blue Bubbles personal server and I've got everything working. And just like this same scenario, you could only send iMessages through email. And you know what happened? I showed up as a separate contact for all my friends every time I'd send them a message. And then if they replied directly to that message, it worked fine. But when they went to send me a message out of the blue, they'd search for their contact, Josh, they'd see my phone number and they'd select that and send it, and I'd get the message as a text message, not an iMessage. People cannot be retrained to do things in a new way. I could not convince my iPhone using friends to send me an iMessage over email instead of sending me a text message over phone number, even though they'd rather I be a Blue Bubble. In the long run, I found just one solution to the problem: buy an iPhone. Now, Beeper says they're working on getting phone number registration working again, and they might, but you know what will happen after that? Apple will break it again. So you are paying $2 a month for a service that isn't stable. Now, in fairness, Beeper says at the moment they're not charging that $2. You can sign up for a free trial and they won't charge it right away. But something's going to have to give. They can't continue going back and forth forever. And the only thing that will give is Apple deciding to put an iMessage app on Android. I don't know that they'll ever do that, but it's the only thing that will ever work. This isn't anything against the Beeper company. What they're trying is extremely difficult and doomed to fail, and they probably know that, and they've elected to do it anyways because they feel it's the right thing to do. There's a whole debate over whether that's actually true, but I do know this. So long as Apple insists on keeping up a walled garden for iMessage just to keep people on iPhone, they are giving their users a worse, more unsecure experience every time they have the nerve to talk to someone on Android. And even in the United States, Apple has just over half the market. That is plenty of people that are on Android. Apple is choosing to make the iPhone experience bad, to punish people for not being on iPhone, but worse, to punish their own iPhone users for speaking with Android friends. They're making your messages less secure, less private, and that's not okay. We've already made our choices. Either you're okay with being on iPhone, and I am, or you would rather be on Android. And in truth, I'd rather be. Not everyone can afford to buy a second phone. Not everyone is a YouTuber who sees value in having two phones. Most people just need one phone. And you shouldn't make the experience worse for everyone involved just because they chose other than you. Apple could be the bigger company here and benefit from the concept that everyone, even people on Android, would be making use of an Apple ID and iMessage for all their communication needs. If Apple really cared about privacy, that's just what they would do. That's today's tech news. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear more tech news and reviews from me, please subscribe to the channel. If you keep up with me, I'll soon be releasing a video about ChatGPT-enabled smart glasses, a potential Logitech Harmony replacement, and I'm tearing apart a smartphone to turn into art. Until next time, bye.